God's shocking truth, this message will change everything now. Don't miss it today. In a quiet little town, wrapped snugly under a blanket of mist, a storm was brewing, but it wasn't a normal storm. There was something electric in the air, something heavy and ominous. Just days ago, a strange, crackling broadcast had interrupted regular programming right at noon, and the voice that emerged from the static wasn't just any ordinary voice. It echoed like thunder, resonating deep within every soul that listened. Today, it warned, you stand at the brink of revelation. As the townsfolk listened, they could feel their hearts racing, bodies vibrating with anticipation. What was happening? What couldn't they see? Lights flickered and shadows danced unnaturally, while the wind began to howl secrets through the trees. The townspeople gathered wide-eyed around a screen, fingers trembling, anticipation building. There was talk of codes, whispers about a long-hidden prophecy. Old Mrs. Peterson, gripping her husband's hand like a lifeline, said she felt the ground shake as if the earth itself knew something was coming. Meanwhile, young Tommy, barely 10 but wise beyond his years, stood frozen, mouth agape, hearing something he couldn't quite place. It's all connected, he muttered, each word tasting like ash in his mouth. His friends turned to him, fear clouding their eyes, a weird sense of dread following their shared urge to delve deeper. Then, with each passing moment, small details began to surface. Doors creaked open by themselves, and whispers floated through the air like autumn leaves, carrying snippets of fear and hope. Something vivid flickered at the edges of their consciousness, like a distant memory trying to claw its way back into memory. The power went out, but that only intensified the whispers, wrapping the town in a cocoon of darkness and panic. What were they supposed to do with this knowledge? Did they dare question the strange occurrences? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the room filled with tension, a figure appeared, a shadow with unknown motives. The air thickened with unspoken truths, hearts hammered violently against ribs. Everyone lowered their voice, a chorus of mutterings breaking the uneasy silence. Is this the end? Someone whispered. Or a new beginning? Eyes darted around, searching for answers that slipped like water through their fingers. A single, sharp laugh cut through the anxiety, chilling them to the bone. You've only scratched the surface, the voice slithered, spinning webs of doubt. Just then, as if on cue, the power flickered back on, revealing a new message across the screen, one that would rearrange everything they thought they knew. What could it mean? And who had the power to reshape their reality just like that? The screen lit up, and gasps filled the air. The message sprawled across the display in bold letters, the time has come to choose. Confusion and horror sparkled in the eyes of the townsfolk. What did it mean to choose? An uneasy murmur rippled through the crowd. Each heart pounded loudly, a collective drumbeat of fear and curiosity. Choose what? Someone called out, their voice trembling. The figure in the shadow stepped closer, a smirk playing at the corners of their mouth. As they emerged from the darkness, the townsfolk squinted to see the face of this unknown speaker. It was a woman, her features sharp, her eyes gleaming with a predatory light. Choose to embrace the truth or flee from it, she declared, her voice smooth yet laced with malice. Tommy felt a chill run down his spine. The weight of her words twisted inside him, a knot of dread coiling tighter with every breath. The crowd shifted, caught between fear and disbelief. Mrs. Peterson tightened her grip on her husband's hand, her knuckles paling. What truth? What are you talking about? The woman's laughter echoed through the room, cutting through the tension yet somehow deepening it. The truth that has been bound for decades. The truth that will shatter your illusions. The old man seethed, trying to stand firm against the surge of dread. You're here to scare us. To manipulate us. Scare. She mused, shaking her head. No, dear man. I'm here to free you. She gestured to the screen. Are you ready to see what lies beneath the surface? With a flick of her wrist, the message shifted. New words appeared, the secret is hidden in the old oak. The air stilled. The townsfolk exchanged anxious glances. The old oak, an ancient tree on the outskirts of town, rumored to be a relic of bygone eras. What could possibly be hidden there? Tommy's heart raced as he recalled the eerie whispers gently caressing the wind that ran through the town. A memory tugged at the back of his mind, something whispered in hushed tones, a long-forgotten tale. Move! Shouted the woman, breaking through their hesitance. Or sit idle and let your world dissolve. Her eyes bored into each of them, and an electric charge hung in the air, an urgent siren calling them to action, to heed her words. A voice broke through the daze. What if we don't want to know? The woman's expression darkened, suggesting that ignorance wouldn't shield them. Not knowing will expose you to a far darker fate. Tommy looked around, his friends visibly shaken, but bubbling with a blend of excitement and anxiety. We have to go to the old oak, he whispered, each word urging. It's the only way to know what's real. Slowly, a determination settled in the crowd, eyes lighting up with the flicker of hope, mingled with fear. They began to move toward the door, one by one, compelled by an unseen force. As the door opened, a gust of wind rushed in, carrying with it the muted whispers of the town, fragments of their fears, hopes, and unspoken questions. Outside, the mist thickened, and everything appeared almost surreal, stretching the edges of reality. Almost like the very fabric of their world was being tested, but they had chosen to confront the truth even if it meant facing the shadows that awaited them at the old oak. What would they discover? Would the truth liberate or condemn them? As they stepped out into the storm, the silence of the forest loomed ahead, waiting. The wind whipped through the trees, swirling leaves and debris like a chaotic dance of nature aligning against them. Tommy led the way, heart racing like a drum, his feet pounding against the damp earth. Behind him, Mrs. Peterson gasped as she stumbled, her husband steadying her with a reassuring grip. The air was thick with uncertainty, mirroring the grave looks on each face as they moved deeper into the woods. Did you hear that? Someone whispered, stopping suddenly. The crack of a twig echoed ominously, slicing through the deafening silence. All heads turned, eyes wide, straining to catch a glimpse of what lay in the shadows. A cold sweat trickled down Tommy's back. The forest, once familiar, now felt like a menacing labyrinth engulfing them in its clutches. It's just the wind, he said, shoving fear down into the pit of his stomach. But doubt crept through their ranks like a disease. Shadows coiled around the trunks of trees, creating figures that danced and flickered, feeding their growing anxiety. Their pace quickened, hearts like caged birds fluttering in desperation. That in the distance, a misted outline emerged, the old oak. Its gnarled branches sprawled wide, an ancient guardian shrouded in mystery. The townsfolk halted at the sight, collectively holding their breaths, entranced by the massive trunk that stood resolute against the tide of uncertainty. What if we find something terrible? Whispered Sarah, her voice barely rising above the haunting winds. Then we face it together, Tommy replied, more to himself than anyone else. The resolve in his tone wavered. With tentative steps, they approached the tree. The gnarled bark felt rough under his fingertips, pulsing with a history that demanded to be discovered. Tommy leaned closer, peering at odd carvings that marred the trunk, symbols unfurling like a forgotten script, each line brimming with secrets waiting to be unleashed. Look! Mrs. Peterson exclaimed, pointing at a hollow that seemed to breathe under the weight of centuries. Inside, something glimmered, a light bouncing off glass. What is that? Tommy moved closer, panicking as he wrestled with dread. He reached into the hollow and pulled out what looked like an old glass bottle, its surface encrusted with symbols that seemed eerily familiar, like echoes of the past whispering to him. "Tommy, be careful," hissed Keith, stepping back. The bottle trembled in his grip, then shattered. A burst of light surged forth, enveloping them all. They gasped, staggered back, but curiosity anchored them to the spot. The brilliance dimmed, and amidst the fading glow, voices echoed, voices of the townspeople who had vanished over the years, a chorus of fears and regrets flooding their senses. "What have we done?" Tommy choked out, trying to gather himself as he stumbled back. Shadows stirred, weaving through their legs like spirits enshrined in despair. Suddenly, the woman's voice broke through the cacophony. "You wanted the truth, now the truth shall consume you." Tommy's breaths quickened as the reality sunk in. This was no unveiling, but a curse laid bare. The ground seemed to pulse beneath them, a heartbeat echoing their collective dread as the visions morphed into fragmented images of their lives' betrayals, fears, failures. "No, stop!" shouted someone in the crowd, but the release came too fast. It seized them, drawing the weight of their choices forward, forcing them to confront everything they had buried, their pasts racing through time, twisting their perception of reality like a cruel puppet show. And then it all stopped. The glow faded, leaving only an air of dread. The woods were silent again, but the air felt thick with unspoken questions. Tommy's eyes searched the faces around him, but they had all become strangers lost in the churning tide of their unraveling truths. "Did we break something?" whispered Sarah, trembling. "No, we awakened it," Tommy murmured. They had chosen, but what had they truly unleashed? As they stumbled back, bewildered, the shadows deepened around the old oak, twisting into shapes that whispered promises and threats. Alike. What else lay buried beneath the surface, waiting for them to uncover? But now, mystery wrapped around them thicker than the mist, and the forest waited, eager to absorb the consequences of their choice. What would be next? The silence felt suffocating, wrapping around them like a noose. Each breath was heavy, each heartbeat thudded loudly in their ears, drowning out the rustle of leaves. Tommy's mind raced, trying to decipher what those voices meant. Abruptly, a chilling gust swept through the clearing, making them shudder as an unnatural chill settled into their bones. "We need to get out of here," insisted Keith, his voice shaky as he grasped Sarah's arm tightly. She looked at Tommy, her eyes wide with fear, pleading for leadership. "What about the others?" Tommy asked, glancing around. But he was already getting the gut feeling that they were more than just people lost in the woods. Their lives, their stories, were entangled with this very place. Voices rose and fell in his mind, beckoning, warning, demanding. "Maybe we can face this together," Tommy said, his voice faltering. It felt both brave and foolish. A rush of adrenaline squeezed his chest as he faced the old oak again, now a living entity pulsating with tension, but as he stepped forward, the ground trembled. It was subtle at first, like the shudder of a distant train, but it soon escalated into something more menacing. The tree seemed to lean in toward him, its gnarled branches reaching like skeletal fingers. A low growl echoed from the shadows, an ominous sound that sent chills down everyone's spine. They looked around, heartbeats sinking to the primal beat of impending dread. Their breaths quickened as they realized they weren't alone. Sarah's voice broke, barely above a whisper. What if we actually unleashed something? Something that's been waiting? Before he could respond, the air thickened, swirling with fog and the scent of damp earth. The whispers grew louder, blending with distant cries. The echoes of trapped souls melded in a dissonant cacophony. Panic gripped them, and they gathered closer, forming a tight circle around the old oak as if it were a shield. "Listen!" Tommy shouted over the chaos. "If this is about the truth, maybe we need to confront it head-on. We can't run from it." Some murmured agreements, but fear darkened their features. Too many memories loomed like storm clouds waiting to break. They felt invisible strings tugging at their hearts, dragging them closer to the shadows colliding just beyond reach. Then, with sudden intensity, the ground shook again. This time, they all felt something break through, a force erupting from the earth that sent them sprawling backward. Dark figures clawed their way out, mist swirling around them as they congealed into forms that were grotesquely familiar, faces of the missing townspeople etched in sorrow and rage. "What have you awakened?" one of them shrieked, voice drenched in despair. "We were at peace." Tommy scrambled to his feet, wide-eyed. "We didn't mean to, we just wanted to know." The figures hissed, tendrils of shadow reaching for him. "Knowledge comes with a price," another whispered, its tone dripping with malice. "Stop!" yelled Mrs. Peterson, her voice breaking the spell, "we're here to help." "We didn't know." But her words were drowned out. The shadows deepened, swirling frantically as the figures advanced, each carrying the weight of their grief, their unfulfilled desires for justice etched in their expressions. "Flee!" Sar screamed, pulling Tommy and Keith with all her strength. They sprinted away, stumbling through underbrush and brambles, but the very forest seemed to conspire against them, branches snatching at their clothing, roots twisting at their feet. The air thickened as the shadows chased them through the labyrinthine woods. In a desperate rush, they burst through a clearing, collapsing as they finally paused to catch their breath. Darkness loomed behind them, still prowling, and Tommy clenched his fists in frustration. "What do we do now? How do we fix this?" The rustling leaves formed phrases, half-formed ideas melding into the sound of the wind. A new voice murmured low, not from behind but from the clearing ahead. "Each truth reveals another." Suddenly, the mist parted, revealing the path forward, uncertain yet beckoning. What lay beyond? Tommy felt the pull of the unknown, an urge to step into the secretive haze. They were at a crossroads, and one choice could lead them to redemption or to their end. "Are we ready?" he asked, but uncertainty nagged at him. As the shadows loomed closer, time felt like it was running out. "Let us go, before it's too late," said Keith, glancing nervously over his shoulder. And with a collective breath held tight in their chests, they moved toward the waiting darkness, each step echoing with the weight of what they might soon discover. What awaited them? Would it be answers, retribution, or a deeper descent into the unknown darkness? The mist curled around their legs like a living thing, twisting and teasing as they pushed deeper into the unknown. Each step felt like a violation of some sacred ground, a forbidden journey into the very heart of mystery. Tommy led the way, heart racing, eyes darting forward into murky shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly. "Is this the right choice?" Sarah murmured, her voice tremulous. Fear hung thick in the air, mixing with the scent of moss and decay. They were moving toward danger, there was no denying it. "Only one way to find out," Tommy replied, though he felt the knot of doubt tighten in his gut. As they moved ahead, the whispers grew more distinct. It was like a chorus of voices rising from the soil, their tones weaving together into an intricate tapestry of sorrow and yearning. "Help us," they pleaded, the sounds wrapping around them, tugging at their hearts. The urgency of their cries made Tommy's blood run cold. "Don't listen to them," Keith shouted, pushing ahead. "They want something. This isn't just a rescue mission, it's a trap." Just then, a deafening crack echoed through the trees, like the sound of thunder overhead. The ground shook violently beneath them, and they stumbled, trying desperately to maintain their footing. Green light burst through the mist, illuminating the way ahead, revealing symbols etched into the bark of the trees, ancient markings pulsing with energy. Tommy glanced back at Sarah, her face paled in dread. "What are they?" she gasped. "Souls lost souls," Tommy whispered, realization dawning like a nightmare unfolding. "We've entered their realm. They want us to join them," Keith added, eyes wide, frustration and fear mingling in his voice. "We have to turn back." But as they turned, the shadows seemed to close in around them, blocking their escape. The once familiar trees now loomed like dark sentinels, roots curling like grasping hands ready to snatch them away. The figures began to emerge again, spirits with anguished faces, their mouths forming silent screams, eyes burning with an insatiable desire for vengeance. "Please help us," one figure implored, reaching out with a trembling hand. It looked like a lost friend, someone they once knew. The familiarity made Tommy's heart stop. "No. They're twisting our memories," he shouted, trying to shake off the pull of the spirit's gaze. "We can't trust them." Sarah gripped his arm, her nails digging into his flesh. "But what if we can help them? What if they're just lost?" Her voice was filled with hopeful desperation. "No. That's the trap," Keith exclaimed. "It's a facade, a way to lure us in," and then he hesitated, the thought chilling him. "Then we become one of them." They found themselves at the center of the clearing, where the light was brightest. In its glow, something shimmered, a figure materialized into view, a woman adorned in white, features soft yet stern. Her presence commanded attention, and the spirits quieted, reverently backing away. "Choose wisely," she beckoned, her voice a harmonious blend of sorrow and strength. "Each truth reveals another. What will you sacrifice to seek the answers?" Tommy felt the weight of her words, pressing down like the branches that threatened to crush him. The night stretched around them, filled with palpable tension, and he knew they had come to an irreversible moment. With their hearts racing, choices loomed before them, each more harrowing than the last. "What do we even want?" Keith murmured, fear rippling through him. "Answers? Redemption? Or are we just running from our own failures?" And there it was, the heart of the matter. A profound silence fell, broken only by the haunting whispers that seemed to echo and amplify the uncertainty in their minds. The forest held its breath, anticipation crackling in the air. "Will you stand and face it, or will you crumble beneath its weight?" The woman asked, her presence both a guide and a judge. Tommy's gaze flickered around his friends, each wrestling with their own struggles, fear, doubt, hope intertwined in a disturbing dance. As the shadows slowly circled them once more, Tommy felt something change. He took a step forward, ready to confront whatever awaited. "We will face this," he declared, though his voice quivered. "Together." But was it courage or foolishness that propelled him? The night felt charged with danger, a fragile line between liberation and despair. He could feel the collective breath of the unseen creatures of the wood, eyes watching, judging, what truth awaited him. What price would they have to pay, and would they emerge as friends or foes? As they prepared to make their decision, a bone-chilling scream pierced the air, and like a dart, the shadows lunged forward, eager for a feast. "Run!" shouted Keith, panic overtaking him as the darkness surged. But was there truly a way out, or was this the end of their journey where reality blended with the unimaginable darkness they had awakened? The screams echoed like thunder, crashing against the trees as panic consumed them. Shadows lunged hungrily, fingers clawing at the very fabric of their being, and the pulsing green light flickered, a heartbeat racing towards oblivion. "Run!" Tommy's voice shattered through the chaos as he seized Sarah's hand, dragging her away from the suffocating darkness. Keith followed, his breath ragged, fear painting his face pale. They sprinted, but the branches clawed at their skin, and the whispering voices intensified, growing louder, more desperate. Help us," they begged, a twisted symphony that danced just out of reach of reason. "Don't listen," Tommy shouted, fighting against the pull of their cries. The woman in white had given them a choice, yet it felt like every step forward was a decision to step back into the jaws of terror. "Stay together." But behind them, a guttural roar erupted, something almost human, yet laced with rage and sorrow. Tommy dared a glance back, and his heart plummeted. The spirits were lunging, their faces contorted in agony, yearning for escape and dragging remnants of their souls with them. And in the front of it all, a shadow, darker than any night, surged through the trees, eyes burning like coals. "Split up!" Keith yelled, his instincts kicking in. "We can't all be taken at once." "No!" Tommy shouted back, horrified at the thought. "We stick together. It's our only chance." But as they stumbled over roots and rocks, the group's unity began to fray. Sarah found herself veering to the left, entranced by the faint glimmer of light that pierced through the mist. It called to her, a beacon of hope amidst despair, but deep down, dread tightened her chest. "Sarah!" Tommy cried, desperation clawing his throat, she hesitated, torn between the dark mass of spirits crowding behind them and the blinding light in the distance. "I feel it, Tommy. It's different. Don't you can't trust it?" Keith shouted, running to reach her. But the pull was irresistible. The light flickered, illuminating her face with fleeting warmth. "We could help them make it right, no." Tommy's shout morphed into a primal scream as the shadow behind them lunged forward, arms stretching, ready to claim its next victim. In that moment, clarity seized him. Tommy is right. Please, just take my hand. The moment stretched like a taut wire. Unease twisted in her heart, but the look in Tommy's eyes anchored her. She turned back, reaching for him just as the darkness pounced, its shadow enveloping her. With a heart-stopping lurch, Tommy sprang forward, ensnaring her hand firmly in his grasp. "Hold on." The shadow faltered, just for a breath, as if its grip was disrupted by their defiance, but it wasn't done yet. The figures surged, twisting like smoke around them, each face a story of pain and desire, clawing to be remembered, but the moment was fleeting. "Run!" Keith shouted again, danger looming at their backs. With a fierce determination, they broke free from the tendrils that threatened to pull them all under. They raced down a twisted pathway, adrift in a storm of ancient power. Breathless and desperate, they could taste the metallic tang of fear on their lips, but the forest had other plans. The ground beneath them rippled, shifting and trembling as the chase intensified. Roots erupted, snaring their ankles, twisting like serpents intent on dragging them into the abyss. "We can't. We can't hold out like this." Keith panted, nearly tripping. "Just keep moving," Tommy urged, as bubbles of panic threatened to boil over. "Together." As they reached a darker part of the grove, an echoing laugh broke through the eerie calm. A figure in shadow stood at the edge, tilting its head like a predator watching its prey. "Didn't anyone teach you not to play with what you can't understand?" It taunted, voice slithering through the air. That's when everything collapsed. The foliage erupted, the whispers crescendoed in an agonizing roar, and the ground beneath them vanished. With a devastating plunge, they fell into a darkness far deeper than any they had ever known, plummeting into uncertainty. What awaited them at the bottom? Could they truly escape, or was this only the beginning of their darkest nightmare? The freefall felt eternal. They tumbled through an abyss that had no end, the sensation of weightlessness mixing with a gut-wrenching fear that gnawed at their insides. Tommy's grip on Sarah tightened as they fell, their hands sweating in a vice of terror. Then, with a sudden jolt, they landed hard. The forest floor was gone, replaced by a cold stone surface that sent sharp pain racing through them. Gasping, they scrambled to their feet, eyes darting around in a darkness that was thicker than the night's embrace. "Where are we?" Keith croaked, brushing dirt from his clothes. His voice echoed, grotesque and lonely, lost among unseen shadows. The air was electric, charged with an unsettling energy. Tommy felt it humming under his skin, a sinister promise of something waiting in the dark. "I don't know, but we've got to find a way out." Sarah shivered, the chill exacerbating her dread. "What about the spirits? Are they here with us?" "Guess we'll find out," Tommy said, forcing confidence he didn't feel. He took a breath, grounding himself. Somehow, they had to make sense of this. Light flickered in the distance. A ghostly glow illuminated a path, leading deeper into the unknown. "There." Tommy pointed, the flickering source almost taunting them. As they edged forward, the air thickened with whispers around them, a chorus of haunting voices crying out for release. They wavered, fear bubbling inside. "Are you sure we should go there?" Keith asked, biting his lip nervously. Tommy hesitated, watching as the light danced, beckoning them closer. "We have to try. We can't stand here like this. We can't go back." With every step, the glow intensified, revealing more of their surroundings: dilapidated stone walls covered in thick vine and strange, pulsating flora. It was a forgotten realm, trapped in time and shadow, teetering on the edge of despair and hope. The whispers grew sharper, a cacophony of raw emotion swirling around them. Help us remember us, the voices clawed at their minds, urging them to listen, to connect with the pain that surrounded them. They want us to help, Sarah murmured, eyes wide, as she glanced back at the shadows creeping closer. Stay strong. Tommy snapped, shaking his head. They won't let go of us that easily. We have to hold on to each other. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall silhouette that glided forward, its features obscured but its presence undeniable. The power radiating from it pressed against their chests, making it hard to breathe. I see you've come down to where the lost reside, it said, voice like gravel. You think your courage can save them? Or yourselves? Tommy stepped back, fear slicing through him. Who are you? The figure laughed whimsically, a sound that danced between sorrow and mockery. I am what remains of those who believed they could change fate. But fate, my dear children, is a cruel mistress. I want to let you take us. Tommy shouted, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He glanced at Sarah and Keith, who stood frozen, paralyzed by the entity's overwhelming presence. The figure leaned closer, its eyes two smoldering coals in the darkness. Your choices brought you here, but you must decide which direction you will walk. The doors of fate stand open. Choose well, or the darkness will swallow you whole. With those words, the air shimmered, revealing two distinct paths, the way of shadows and the way of light. One path spiraled down into an abyss of whispers, while the other glowed faintly, filled with flickering motes of hope. What do we do? Keith asked, panic flooding his voice. They were running out of time, the darkness swirling around them like a greedy beast. Could they trust the light? What lay down each path? Just then, the whispers rose, swelling into a deafening roar that broke through the tension, 1,000 voices crying out. Make your choice. Do not delay. And with that, hesitation turned into a choice. One path stood out, but the weight of the decision pressed down like chains on their hearts. What would they choose? Would the truth set them free, or lead them deeper into despair? The moment lingered, an unending pulse of dread and anticipation. Time seemed frozen as Tommy, Sarah, and Keith stood before the yawning darkness and shimmering light, each choice brimming with potential consequences. What if we pick wrong? Keith's voice trembled like a leaf in a storm. What if we never get out? We can't think like that, Tommy shot back, forcing his own panic to simmer down. We have to be brave. We've already faced so much. He glanced at Sarah, searching her face for reassurance. Sarah's eyes were full of fear, but beneath it flickered a spark of determination. We have to trust our instinct. The light, it feels warm, doesn't it? Warm? Keith echoed, glancing nervously at Tommy. It could just be a trap. This place is all tricks and lies. The whispers surged again, louder and more insistent, wrapping around them like heavy fog. Choose. 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 The voices clawed at their minds, igniting flashbacks of their individual fears, regrets, and sorrows. Listen. Tommy shouted over the cacophony, rallying their spirits. Whatever this is, whatever game they're playing, we can't let fear control us. A soft glow illuminated the outline of the path to the light, and for a second, Tommy believed he could hear hope humming just below the surface of the chaos. We go forward, Tommy decided, shoving his shoulders back with determination. Together. As a team. His voice rang out with fierce conviction, drowning out the despair around them. He stepped toward the glowing path, heart pounding with each breath. Sarah hesitated but finally took his hand, her touch grounding him. They pulled Keith along with them, each step a leap over the chasm of uncertainty. The whispers turned into shrieks, rising in pitch as they advanced. Each sound trembled through the air, an angry demand for their attention. You cannot escape. You will regret this choice. Tommy felt the weight of those words, a burden that pressed against him like a suffocating blanket. Stay strong. He urged, firm in his grip on Sarah's hand. The second their feet crossed the threshold into the light, a blinding flash enveloped them. They stumbled forward, falling into an endless radiance that lit every dark corner of their minds. And then silence. The momentary tranquility was pierced by a soft laughter. Tommy, disoriented, scanned the area. They weren't in the stone cavern anymore. Instead, they found themselves standing in a lush, vibrant meadow, sunlight pouring down on them and wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze. It worked. Sarah gasped, blinking in the brightness. Are we free? But that relief was short-lived. Before them stood a glimmering figure, almost ethereal in nature, staring at them with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of the universe. Welcome, the figure began, voice soothing yet ominous. You have chosen wisely, but every choice has its price. Tommy's heart sank. The bubbling joy of escape was replaced with a frosty fear. What do you mean? The figure's smile faded. You have given up the darkness, but you will face a truth that will test your hearts and souls. What truth? Keith asked desperately, glancing between his friends, searching for reassurance. A bright flash enveloped them once more. They felt the ground shift beneath their feet as another wave of energy surged through the air. Look inside yourselves, the figure whispered, fading into the light. Only there will you discover the real challenge. As the figure vanished, shadows flickered at the corners of Tommy's vision, weaving back into existence, ready to engulf them again. What kind of truth? Tommy muttered, his mind racing. The air around them began to tremble as they awaited the next revelation, hearts pounding, minds racing. Whatever it is, Sarah whispered, we face it together. At that moment, the ground shook violently. A chilling wind swept through the meadow, tossing the wildflowers and snuffing out the sun. From the depths of the earth, a voice rumbled, deep and foreboding. Your past is waiting and it wants a reckoning. What awaited them in the depths of their memories? Would they be ready to confront what lay hidden within? The shadows thickened around them, curling like tendrils of smoke, grasping at their ankles and whispering taunts that crawled beneath their skin. Tommy stared into the darkness, instinctively stepping closer to Sarah. What does that mean? Keith shouted, his voice strained. What past? We didn't do anything. But even as he spoke, a kaleidoscope of memories crashed over them like a tidal wave, fragments of moments filled with pain, regret, and choices. Tommy felt something deep within him clench, a mix of fear and an unsettling familiarity. Look! Sarah pointed at the horizon, where the blinding light began to flicker. Images flared, forming ghostly shapes that danced on the edges of their reality. Tendrils of their past came alive, pilfering their darkest fears. Tommy saw himself as a child, running away from home, the weight of unfinished arguments and shattered dreams. He remembered the tears he had shed, the anger boiling inside him. Why are you showing me this? He gasped, gripping his head as if to physically block the memories seeping in. They're not just memories. They're chains, Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. We need to face them, or we won't escape this place. Keith winced at her words, then steeled himself. I've faced things before. I can do this. Each word was like a fragile hope, a shield against the shadows stalking them. The winds howled again, sending a shiver down Tommy's spine. The ground beneath them erupted into a swirling vortex, spiraling inwards with an eerie glow. The lush meadow morphed into a grim battlefield, and skeletal figures emerged from the darkness, lips curled into mocking smiles. You thought you could leave us behind? They jeered, voices dripping with malice. Sarah clutched Tommy's arm, her body quaking. No, we didn't ask for this. A figure stepped forward, youthful yet twisted with malice, eyes glinting with familiar sadness. It was Tommy's reflection, a surge of guilt made flesh. You think you can forget? It rasped. Every choice has a consequence and now you'll endure them. Get away. Tommy shouted, fighting against the weight of despair that dragged him down. But the figure lunged at him, fingers outstretched like claws ready to tear at his secrets. Face what you've buried, Tommy. It screeched, echoing with a sinister clarity. In that moment, as laughter filled the air, he felt the agonizing pull of his past. The pain of loss, the shame of decisions made. But the figure didn't just reflect his fears, it embodied them. Remember the girl? It taunted, eyes flashing dangerously. She was counting on you. Tommy recoiled, and Sarah gasped beside him. Don't listen to it. It's trying to break you. But fear had taken root, doubt gnawing at his will. He struggled to hold on to the warmth of her grip. Keith, no longer a passive observer, shouted at the dark figure, "You're wrong. We can't be defined by our mistakes. We're here to make things right." His own shape began to emerge from the shadows, his past, twisted and dark. Then, suddenly, the shadows rumbled, shaking violently, as if they were alive. "The reckoning is here." The voice thundered, transporting a heavy dread through the air. "Tommy. We need to force it back. Together." Sarah urged, her eyes fierce with defiance. With her words igniting a fire within him, Tommy squared his shoulders. "You're not my past. You don't own me." The battle was on. They joined hands, drawing strength from each other, a triad of defiance rising against the relentless tide of despair. The shadows swirled tighter, voices overlapping, threatening to swallow them whole. Tommy felt the pressure build, as they began chanting their own truths, powerful affirmations of resilience. But the darkness didn't relent, it surged in response, launching a final assault. "Face us, face yourself." The ground shook again with such intensity that they stumbled, fear clawing at them, strangling any remnants of hope. "What if it's too much?" Keith shouted as he forced himself to ground the group. With a breath like steel, Sarah answered, "It's all we have left." As they prepared for the onslaught, a blinding light shot through the chaos, a luminous thread calling them forward, pulling them into unknown depths. What awaited them in that light? Would they rise as stronger souls, or sink beneath the weight of their past? The light enveloped them, a cocoon of warmth washing over their trembling forms as they plunged deeper into the brilliance. There was no hesitation in the glow, it simply was, pulsating like a heartbeat, resonating with something deep within their souls. They clung to each other, the bond of friendship sealing in their determination to meet whatever awaited them. As the chaos faded, the world around them shifted. They found themselves standing on a hill, overlooking the town that had once been their entire universe. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched across familiar streets. Each building they looked upon sent waves of memory crashing over them. The laughter, tears, moments of joy and pain were all compressed into a single heartbeat. "Is this home?" Tommy breathed. "Are we back?" "Feels like it," Keith replied, squinting as he took in the vibrant colors of the world before them. But it wasn't entirely the same. The shadows lingered just beneath the surface, and a chill in the air reminded them that this was not just a return to familiarity. This was a reckoning. A figure emerged from the crowd congregating in the center of town, standing tall against the fading sunlight. It was the woman in white, serene yet utterly imposing. The townsfolk seemed drawn to her, faces filled with a mix of admiration and fear. "You've journeyed far," she said, voice slicing through the murmurs of the crowd. "And now, you will decide if this town, your town, will rise or fall on the choices you've made." Tommy felt his heart race, each beat a thunderous reminder of the stakes. "What do you mean?" "We've chosen the light. Is this not victory?" Her smile faded, replaced by a somber expression. "The light offers freedom, but it comes with truth, a truth that demands action. You will need to confront not just your past, but how you will shape this future." The ground beneath them trembled, echoes of despair rising like fog from the earth. All around him, Tommy could see figures' faces from the past, memories both painful and beautiful. They were real, lingering in this moment, demanding recognition. "Look to the roots of fear and despair," she continued, "for they tether you to what could be or should have been. You must speak their names, own your choices, and free these souls trapped by echoes of guilt. Only then will you find peace. Together then, Sarah whispered, squeezing Tommy's hand, her courage blending with his. Yes, together, Tommy echoed, and with conviction igniting in his chest, they stepped forward. Marie, Tommy began, remembering the girl he had loved but lost, the war of words left unsaid. I thought I could outrun it. Elizabeth, I pushed you aside for my own selfishness, Keith called, voice strong, renewing resolve. I should have fought harder to keep you safe. I was scared, Sarah added, tears glistening in her eyes, but I won't be afraid to stand up for what I believe in this time. With each name, the light around them brightened, illuminating the shadows that danced on the outskirts, threatening to consume them once more. The crowd of townsfolk began to chant, their words weaving into a tapestry of solidarity. I forgive you. They cried. You are not your mistakes. As truths erupted into the air, light streamed from their hearts, washing over the dark spaces lurking on the edges. The hovering spirits lifted, their anguished faces relaxing into expressions of relief and gratitude. And then, with a final surge, Tommy raised his voice, we choose to face our darkness. We choose to free ourselves and the town. His heart pounded in his chest, the group feeling unstoppable as joy and determination intersected, creating an unbreakable force. The shadows screeched, and in a furious whirlwind, they twisted and turned before being drawn into the light. With a wrenching sound, they vanished, dissipating like smoke in the morning sun. The townsfolk erupted into cheers, the intimacy of their triumph filling the air with a renewed spirit. The burden of their pasts lightened, folding gently away, revealing the path forward. Is this really happening? Keith asked, breathless with shock. Did we really save them? A smile spread across Tommy's face, belief blooming like flowers in spring. We did this together. We chose hope and it's ours to hold. The woman in white regarded them with approving eyes, nodding slowly. In unity and truth, you forged a new destiny, one that will echo through time. As the crowd surrounded them, celebrating the dawn of their shared rebirth, the sun broke free from the horizon, casting golden rays that felt like a warm embrace. Shadows dissolved, leaving space for laughter and joy, reminding them that they held the power to create change. Together, days turned into months, yet the memories of their trials fueled their resolve. The town thrived, vibrant with new life testaments to their courage. And as they walked together down those familiar streets, hope shimmered bright against the backdrop of a clear blue sky. We can continue this journey, can't we? Tommy asked, the weight of their choices still echoed softly within him. Yes, Sarah nodded fiercely. With each sunrise comes another chance. The three of them entwined their arms with a sense of belonging, stepping forward into the embrace of tomorrow. The town once shrouded in fear now gleamed with newfound light, full of stories yet to be told, and within its core laid the truth of their shared past, a truth turned from shadows to a beam of unyielding strength, and together, they would face every step anew. Now, before you go on with your day, I need you to hear this loud and clear. You need to subscribe now to the channel. Don't miss the next exclusive stories that are ready to spark your imagination. Smash that like button, just do it now. It's the heartbeat of the algorithm, and every click counts. And I'm counting on you to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let us get this conversation going, but don't wait even one more second to share this video. Send it to at least 5 friends who need to witness this journey. You are part of something amazing, and your support makes all the difference.